Good morning. May I request everybody to settle down, please, and close the gates on the left. There couldn't be a better time to discuss innovation in India at a time of a global reset where we see a new world order is emerging, and I think this is the time that India has to seize for itself. And with the industry leaders and experts on the panel here, I'm going to request them to share their thoughts and experiences on what could be the best way to seize the moment, not just what they have done, but what can be done to improve the ecosystem, to accelerate innovation in India. I think this is something that we need to address very, very urgently. I'm going to begin by requesting Kamal Bali to talk about the kind of work, Kamal, that you've been doing at Volvo. There is a lot of, reinvention of the brand and its products that you've led in India. So may I request you to share your thoughts first?
Yeah, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Pranjal, for having me on this panel. Let me start by saying that innovation is no more a choice. I think it's a compelling need for every organization, because the kind of problems and challenges what we face, probably the old ways of things may not take us forward. So we will have to employ new ways of doing things, which is something very, very important. And I think each organization, every organization is seized of that reality. So accordingly, if you look at, just for an example, if you look at EU, European Union and US, the difference between, they were about a couple of decades back, were at the same level. The difference today is about 35% in the size of economies, and it's all largely because of the innovation economy, things which they have generated, companies like the Nvidias, the Amazons, the Googles of the world. If you add their turnover, that's basically the difference between EU and. So just coming to Volvo Group, what we've done is, of course, we've had a huge history of innovations. It started with the seat belt, which came out in 1959. There's still this very, very similar technology even today after 60 years of its invention. So that tells you how deeply well thought it was. So I think that's something which we have been doing. But now what we formalized the whole process, we call it CAMPEX. CAMPEX is something which started in Gothenburg. It is now working in India, the second one. The third one is gone to France. The fourth one will be in the US. So at CAMPEX, what we do is, it's basically our innovation ecosystem. Here we work with startups, scale-ups, to be able to partner with them on some of the challenges which we have identified. Business and product challenges we identify, we bring them into our ecosystem and work very, very closely with them, so that they don't have to deal with the typical Volvo bureaucracy, let me say, but they work in a very, very sandbox kind of a way to be able to meet certain. So we have now almost 150 globally, and about 50 areas in which we have worked and had fantastic outcomes. In fact, 4 of the outcomes have been commercialized in India, and I will talk to you about some of those. So I think that's the way we are going about it. We believe that this is the way forward. I think collaborative way, setting out a vision as to what are the 3 or 4 areas, maybe half a dozen areas in which, and core technology areas is also very, very important. While you can do innovation in business areas, in product, but I think we should also look at innovation in some of the core areas. I will talk to you about that.
But Kamal, I'd like to stay with you. Are there any examples you can share about innovation that you've done in India, which you've taken to the rest of the world?
Yeah. So one is on the seats, the safety and comfort in the seating arrangement. So one of the Indian companies came forward, and we've come out with a solution which is mind-boggling solution, and this will be adopted all across the world. So that's one. Other is a real-time working together, real-time collaboration between various Volvo facilities in US, in Gothenburg, in Bangalore. Engineers can work at the same time on the same product through amplified collaboration through AI and other tools which they have employed. So I think that's another thing which has happened out of India. It is almost 80% through. Once this happens, this will be a very, very big breakthrough. But this is more of a process improvement what we have done. On the product side, there are other things which are still work in progress. I can't talk about all of them. But I think 2 or 3 very interesting outcomes are coming out of India. And thanks to the Indian startup ecosystem, it's amazing. The guys are doing an amazing work. The idea is how to rope them in and how to help them to work better.
That's a great point, I think, Kamal. Also harnessing this energy, and you used, everybody talks about startup, but you talk about startup and scale up, which is a very good combination. Piruz, I'm going to come to you. Several decades ago when you took over at Rasna, you created a revolution in the drinks market, and I think many MNCs were running for cover because of what Rasna did. Today, how would you say your company is reinventing itself and innovating for a completely new generation of consumers?
Thanks. And just to tell you, they are still running for cover. But today I would like to speak more about the India opportunity, but because you asked the question, I'll take it and then I'll talk of the main theme which I wanted to speak. See, Rasna has always been at the forefront of innovation, and the reason is we are basically technocrats. My grandfather was a flavorist, my father was, and I also learned. So basically we know how to create flavors, we know how to create products, and we were very innovative. Like post-COVID world, we were the first people to launch a fully natural powder in the world. And almost the whole of GCC, if you see, including Rasna, around 15 brands are now made by me, and they are all natural, without any color, artificial color, any artificial flavor. Then we have been part of this low sugar, less sugar revolution, and almost many powders in the world, and for exports, full of products without sugar I'm selling. Today also in United States, we have introduced for the first time functional powder drinks in sticks. So these are a lot of innovative things we do, and I think this will continue. But today, I think what is more important when we are sitting in this national leadership conclave, a lot of us are leaders, and many of us are management, social professionals. I would like to give a message here which is very important, that we should be very happy with the geopolitical situation which is happening. I am a big optimist that we Indians are jugadus, and we always ensure that any sort of such opportunity we take it up. And I have seen that happen many times. I think today we are looking at a new world order in terms of at least the trade order. And I think we are very lucky that we have a Prime Minister, a Commerce Minister who understand this, and they are navigating us very well through this. But I think it is Indian businesses now that we have to take up this challenge and start making in India for the world. And not by some small quantums, 1 plus 1, 1 plus 1, 1 to 10, 10 to 100. And I think all companies need to come together. We have it in us. If China in probably 20 years could manufacture 50% of the world's produce, you go to any store in the United States or Germany or France and you pick up anything, it is Chinese. I think, why not India? And with this tariff push, why not today? And I think we all need to work together on that. And this whole idea should come that let us search products where India can innovate in a very low-cost manner and introduce in a very time-bound manner these products. Huge opportunity. Now, obviously, the government has to support us also in a very big way. And through messages like this, of course, we are having other politicians also coming here. The message to the government in my mind is, you please ensure that you remove the clutches, whatever all the half of our industry. Let us swim the way we want. And honestly, I do believe that if the government just does 3-4 things which I am going to just talk of, like ease of doing business in the real sense. It is said that, man proposes, God disposes. Here it is one ministry proposes, the other ministry disposes. State government says A, the other one will say B. Now obviously you have a National Development Council, like we had a GST Council. Get out all of these things in one go. Ensure that industry is given the level playing field, because we have to fight with the world. We have to put our products in the world. Number 2, this taxation, I'm still not understood. One product, 100 types of taxes, this procedure, that procedure. We say one nation, one tax, but it is not like that. It is one nation, 100 taxes. It is one nation, 100 assessments. It is one nation, 100 returns. So we really need a one nation, one tax. Third, honestly speaking, India is facing a lot of non-tariff barriers. We are talking of tariff barriers. In my mind, tariff barriers are opportunities. I am talking of the non-tariff barriers. That people are afraid that India will get in, and that's why they have placed unnecessary barriers in terms of whatever, cytosanitary, this and that. Now, time has come that Indian government, with the help of Indian industry, we need to fight that out, and we need to ensure that we have a level playing field. If we get their products in without these type of barriers, like pharma, we have fast access, electronics, we have fast access, then why not Indian food in a fast access? So I do believe that is needed. For the SEZ, the foodie export zones, actually that concept never worked. China, Vietnam got built with that concept. So how do we create a real concept of SEZ? And the last and the most important piece is what you just now mentioned about innovation. And I do believe that we have enough institutes. We need to work with them, together with them, in ensuring real innovation right from the lab goes into commercial stage in the fastest possible manner. And for that, collaboration between academia and industry is a must. So these are, in my mind, the major things, and I'm very sure that today's youngsters honestly will take this up and start manufacturing in India for the world.
Thank you, Piruz. I'll come back to you for some more thoughts on what you said. But I'll request Sanjay Singh to come in here. Sanjay, you've been secretary in the Government of India now, and you have helped across various sectors from telecom to agriculture. Now with the private sector, and I think your perspective on how can government and industry work together would be very valuable. There seems to be still a little bit of challenge in terms of collaboration between government and industry. There are sometimes misaligned objectives. How do you think industry and government now can work together to innovate, not just for India, but scale Indian industry to the world?
Thank you, Pranjal. I'll just put up my perspective on the basis of my experience previously in the government, now in the private sector. And in the government, I mean, as you rightly mentioned, I worked at the top in leading research institution in the country, Indian Council of Agriculture Research, and also headed a department of the government dealing with industry on the steel, and I also was in telecom. On the basis of that, I'll just put up my views. We are on the path of Viksit Bharat, and that entails that we increase the size of our economy. So expansion of economy can only come from the kind of where HDI goes up, per capita goes up, can only come from innovation, R&D, and skilling. But these three are the most important things. But innovation, there are challenges. R&D, there are challenges. From my experience with the research institution, I can say we need to learn from startups. So despite our ecosystem of innovation not being up to mark, investment not being there, infrastructure not being top class, but our GII is very high. There's Global Innovation Index. We stand at 33, I mean, which is the World Intellectual Property Organization's index. And on the basis of what? On the basis of what startups are doing. And that has been driven by various initiatives of the government. Digital India, Startup India, Atal Innovation Mission, and several other such kind of initiatives which government has taken. So what are those things which startups do differently? Number one, they are nimble, they are frugal, they are agile, and most important, they are quick to rebound. They'll fail, they'll rebound. Next, very, very important aspect of startups is there is a culture of tolerance for experimentation. So which generally is not there. I'm talking about big industry as well as government. You mentioned about collaboration. There are two cardinal aspects of collaborations which need to exist. Number one is trust. And And why collaboration is needed? Basically, one institute has the skill set to do research, and second one has the problem set available with them and with the funding as well. So to me, collaboration has been difficult, G2B as well B2B. All the path-breaking collaboration, path-breaking innovations in the world, whether you see quantum computing, since I am in presently steel sector, a lot of decarbonization, green steel initiatives, they are being driven by collaborations. But why is not that happening with us? Because we really need to, primarily, in the government, once I was part of an initiative where we wanted to bring an industry for collaboration R&D. The problem is of IP management, which they don't come together. And along with that, IP management, second thing is lack of trust, what is required among everybody. So if all these things are, there is learning from all over. We need to prepare, formulate a model. I mean, that IMA is the right kind of body to really venture in that direction. So if all these things are able to put together, we build a model and that can be replicated. I mean, that definitely will provide momentum to innovation.
Thank you, Sanjay. I think trust is a very critical issue, and I think we should unpack that a little bit more. But Yezdi, I'd like to come to you. You have a cross-industry and a national and perspective with international view as well. Innovation is a function of ambition. The more ambitious you are, or an entity is, the more innovative it wants to be. Do you see that sense of ambition rising in Indian industry, both among startup and scale up, and do you think that will spur a higher level of innovation?
Thank you. Thanks, Pranjal. So you are right. Innovation is an outcome of ambition. And I would add to that, it's also an outcome of pride. And I bring pride in because you need to be proud of your product. You need to be proud of your country more than anything else. If you see India's development and where we are today, we are successful at scale, but that's largely because of cost. So it's a lot of cost arbitrage. And even when we talk about innovation, we say, okay, innovate in India, but actually you're innovating for someone else in India at a cheaper cost. It's either that or it's a fast follower mentality where someone's innovated internationally, and it's a good idea, and you want to quickly replicate and beat the market. Now these are very, very short-term aspects which one should recognize. And I'm not disregarding the cost element. It's a huge advantage to us. It's a huge scale that India has. But we have to, as a country, as private sector, as academia, think of the medium term of what do you want to get out of innovation other than make things cheaply, whether it's a product or a cost or a process. And that's where the element of ambition comes in. And you have to learn from, and it's not a switch on, switch off. It's not going to happen today, tomorrow. It will take a generation before we transform ourselves into where you want to be. Just before I hand over back to you, I'd like to mention some statistics. If you see India, the current level of R&D spend is 0.6% of GDP. As compared to 2.5% for China and almost 4.5% for the US. So that is the element of statistics. If you drill that down further, the private sector in India is about a third as a contributor, whereas in USA and China, it is 75%. So that's what you're dealing with. And I'm sure Kamal will talk about Korea more than anyone else.
Kamal, do you want to add to this?
No, I completely agree with him. I think while it's good to appreciate what India is doing and the kind of tempo which has been generated, but I think one thing we cannot ignore is the fact that we are our core technologies these are all not within India. They are all coming from overseas. Now, whether it is renewable energy, whether it is the photovoltaic cells, AI, ML, let me name some others, EV, battery charging, quantum computing, everything is coming. We are dependent on the outside world. So I think there has to be innovation on some of the core technologies, and this cannot happen by just one company. We need to have a national ambition, and something like ANRF with Anusandhan, that I think it's a very, very good thing which the government has done. There is also now a CEO there. So I think we need to identify half a dozen national ambition projects where private sector, academia, government has to work together. And I completely agree with you that collaboration is the key, and for that trust, and trust will come when we are transparent. Transparency will lead to trust, trust will lead to collaboration. I think that's something very, very important, but some of these core technologies we need to really do work while we continue to do of continuous improvement on small innovations, small things which we keep doing, which is something very, very good. Continuous improvement, I would call it. But then the big ticket items have also to be there on the agenda, and that has to be a national ambition. It can't be just one company.
Good point. Sanjay, I want to come to you for a second. You were also responsible for the BharatNet broadband rollout, and that connected 250,000 gram panchayats with the broadband network. And I think which brings me to the point that bringing such infrastructure to every corner of the country also is the key fuel for innovation. So innovation is not just about startups and scale-ups, but it's also something which has to happen at the micro and very local level, because some of the best ideas and the market is there, so the innovation can also come from there. Any experience you'd like to share from the impact you see of investing in such digital infrastructure across every corner of the country?
In fact, path-breaking, I think innovations or inventions, they come from investment. I mean, look at what, as a country, we are investing in R&D. It's 0.65% of our GDP. And out of this 0.65% GDP, more than 60% comes from the government, where world over, it's other way around. 80% will be private sector investment, 20% would be government investment. And all the basic research of the kind which makes a difference, that comes from educational institutions. So there, we talk a lot about collaborations and like industry, academia collaborations, but that has not been able to generate that kind of momentum which we really are expecting. So there again...
Can you hold the mic closer to you?
Yeah. So there, to me, the problem lies, of course, there is deficit of infrastructure. But more important than that is, we have to get into accepting high impact, high research, I'll say high risk and high impact kind of research paradigm. I mean, that requires what kind of thing? That requires that lot of investment. If you fail, action would not fall on you. In the government kind of a setup, whether it's a academic institution or the research institution, that's one thing which one has to really somehow do something about it. That is, we have brilliant scientists, brilliant professors, but when it comes to providing the right kind of innovations and the work towards that, I mean, we fall short of what is required. It's primarily that they are not being able to translate their skill set, their knowledge into the outcome, primarily because of something required to be done about the ecosystem. So, to me, I mean, I think that's one thing I would just like to
Thank you. Piruz, I would like you to react partly to what Sanjay said, but also you made the point that still there are challenges in coordination within the government, between national ministries, within departments, inside a ministry, and of course the coordination between state and the center. Do you see an improvement in the last few years, and would you like to advise any structure that will help align the government to a common cause for the future?
There is definitely improvement. So last 10 years has been much better than the earlier 30 years in terms of reforms, decriminalization in particular, in terms of this whole online system that we in earlier days. But just to give you an illustration, the government has a very ambitious project in Gujarat called Gift City. Now, we see so many good things coming from one ministry, but then the RBI never gives the permission, so the whole thing goes. So we have got, let us say, unfortunately, big white elephants in buildings standing, but actual work is not happening. While you see such centers in Dubai or Singapore, they have really taken off, and still today also people prefer to be there from India than being here, that is just in the neighborhood. So to put it that way, these are the illustrations. I did mention about the way the GST is, and that's why I did suggest, and a lot of people have been suggesting, that there should be something like a National Development Council. Like, for example, when GST came, the good thing about GST is at least all the ministers sit together with the center, and at one go they decide, so rightly, wrongly, but it's faster than normal. Similarly, if you ask me, there are so many such things, so if they are decided together, if there is internal collaboration, it will help. And I honestly believe in transparency and inclusiveness. And it is very important that government takes industry also as a co-partner. We are not at the end of, we are not playing some sort of a ball bat game. Also some mouse cat game. We are together for the development of the country, and we have to trust each other. So let us be together part of this council in a very honorable, equal manner, not just as, you know, some sort of agents or some sort of recipients, but as equal stakeholders with the government in deciding a correct policy which will take India further and make in India for the world, which is very important. And for that, definitely, how do you think China, Vietnam, Thailand, suddenly India's Thailand food export is more than India's food export in processed food? How? Because the government really became part of this. They trusted industry. They worked with Korea, Japan. They worked with the industry. So that trust, and that is, if you ask me, is greatly required. And there might be one or two black sheep in everything. In fact, in politics also there are black sheep, police also there are black sheep, bureaucracy also there are black sheep. But that doesn't mean everybody is that. So you have to really have faith in the Indian businesses. I think we all mean to really ensure that what is the benefit of industries bring. Let us always imagine, we are not here to fill our pockets. I am not here working to become the Forbes, some highest thing, that I am all by the thank of God. I am working so that I can work with the farmer in ensuring he gets double the value for his crop. I am working so that I put up more factories, directly, indirectly, which create employment. I am working so I am very happy and proud if Indian food products are sitting in the shelves abroad. I am working for nations also as much as anybody else. So I think keep trust in us, keep trust in Indian businesses, and let us work together is my. And on this innovative piece, because I will have to say, I have seen many times that innovators don't get the real value of their innovation, and that is the reason a lot of good innovators don't want to work in this country and they want to work abroad. And I think this was not discussed. But I definitely believe, and IMA has a role to play in this, honestly. Because you work with almost all the management institutions, colleges and all. There are some brilliant students. How do we ensure that these brilliant people work in the country and they think that they will get the appreciation what they want in the country? And I do believe that that is one area where I think we all can work also very closely. How to ensure that there is, that in fact reverse brain drain should happen. Our brain should not go abroad. This is also an area, especially in technology, everything, which is very important for us to ponder.
But Piruz, there is also a feeling that Indian industry subdrams does not recognize talent the way it should. I mean, if you look, if you look at the internship programs that have been there, most interns are made to sit in a corner and then you give a certificate and let them off, right? But if you see the internship program in other countries, especially US, they actually work and they get paid for it. Even the new apprenticeship program which the government has launched, I believe there are mixed results because the industry is not warming up as it should. So I think it's also some level of responsibility on the industry to invest in talent that will create innovation. I think that's lacking a little bit.
See, you mentioned about this government policy. Unfortunately, you announced not this budget, the last ad hoc budget, but you'll be surprised. Right now also the state governments don't know the policy and they are not implementing the policy. It is like the labor laws and the labor codes. They were announced long back, but nothing is on the ground. This is also one example. So that internship policy of the government, where the government was to bring A and the industry was to bring B and A and B was to be for the employee, nothing is on the ground. It was announced, all the papers, we all discussed things like that. So that is another problem. But yes, I did mention. I think we Indians, sometimes I really don't like that management trainees are not to type your sheets or make your PPTs. Management trainees are there so that they can sort of bring some strategic external inputs from their young perspective. So I definitely believe that we in industry have to ensure that the young talent which is there out of colleges, we foster it and we have the ecosystem so that they stay in the country, and we should really, and sometimes I definitely believe that Indian salaries are too, like the top 1% gets probably 80% of the salary in a company. And that is a big problem, honestly speaking. I don't like it. I don't do it also. In my mind, it should be equality. When we want the country to be equal, our salary structure also should be equal. But that is not true. That is true for youngsters. So youngsters say because the boss is getting a crore or 2 crore a year, and the youngster is getting 3 lakh, 4 lakh, so youngster will think, chalo, isko chhod ke I'll go to Singapore, I'll make at least 20, 30 lakhs. So that is the truth. So that is where I said that we have to somehow, we have to encourage this youth, we have to pay them their worth, and we have to take the real, that's what the foreigners are doing. That's why you see foreign companies have young 30 years and 35 years Indians as CEOs, and in our company they are not there in India sitting here. So that is exactly where I said that we need to, that is something where I don't think government has to come in, industry has to come in. We need to really work and ensure that this youth stay in the country and we foster them, therefore our benefit in future, if you ask me.
Thanks, Piruz. I've got some questions for specific panelists. Yezdi, there's a question for you which actually builds on what Piruz said. Is that what will it take to encourage Indian companies to invest more in R&D? I mean, R&D is seen as a cost and not an asset. Do you see that mindset changing?
So certainly yes, and appropriately yes, because if you stand back and see the timing is absolutely spot on. It's bang on today, where we've got all the attributes, we've got the softer aspects in place, but more importantly, we've got the scale of talent in place. And that scale of talent currently is being used by companies outside of India more than inside of India. And they can do it because they've got different financing models. We depend a large on equity, whereas they depend a large on different funds and different models. They also depend largely on academia, and those are the aspects that we need to learn from. We don't need to be innovative in the scheme of things. You just have to stand back and see what Japan did, what Korea did 20 years ago, what China is doing currently, what the US is doing currently, what universities in US are doing currently. I mean, you've got examples of Stanford and things like that, which work with industry and other tech companies. And that's exactly, you don't need to really innovate all of those pieces. They're all there for you to study. But ultimately, as Piruz mentioned, we're going to have to unshackle it. We're going to have to shake this up. And we are going to have to co-create in the scheme of things.
Thank you, Yezdi. I'm going to, there are a couple of questions for you, Kamal. I'm going to add a tougher version of mine to that, which is about the culture of innovation inside an enterprise. There is a perception, and I think it was alluded to here, that smaller companies and younger companies and startups are better at innovation, and larger companies just have the cash to go and buy it. You know, I can't innovate, so I'm just going to buy a smart company which has done the innovation. Is it actually, do you see that negatively? Do you see that as a truth that larger companies fail to innovate because sometimes they also get caught in internal bureaucracies, and therefore creating a culture of innovation becomes difficult for them?
No, absolutely true. I mean, I have to admit this, that larger companies are less agile typically. Of course, the culture is changing. Larger companies are trying to emulate smaller companies in being agile, in being fleet-footed, because they know that's the way forward. So I think very, very clearly that's why in a company like Volvo, we created something, a Volvo within Volvo, a very small Volvo called Campex, where the focus is only innovation. They have very different rules from rest of the organization, so that we make it simpler for Volvo Campax to work with startups and scale-ups so that we can continue on the innovation journey. So that's absolutely a truth, that a culture, the big size of a large organization makes it little less fleet-footed compared to that. But just coming to one more important point, I think in connection with what Yezdi said, and that's very important, is that the proof of pudding is here. 46% of global R&D work, I make a data point here, is done in India. So it's Indians who are doing 46% of core research. They're working on core technologies globally. They're doing it for foreign companies. They can also do it for the Indian companies, for the Indian ecosystem. If the private sector in India can shake off little bit of apprehension on innovation and supported by government, I think we have a great story going for India because we have the talent. And I think that's the proof of the pudding.
But how do you create a culture of innovation? So you said you created a separate unit. And that unit is supposed to innovate for Volvo products globally.
Globally and for India, as well as for India. Because I think the culture, see, any organization has two steering systems. One is culture, other is structure. You can always change the structure overnight and bring in the changes what you want. But culture takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. You need to really bring in a huge change. Ideally, it takes a generation to change a culture. But of course, there are ways and means to do it faster, but fail fast. I mean, during our times, we were taught, when I was doing engineering, build to last. Today, that is not true at all. They say build to adapt. So today, the whole concept, the paradigm is shifting from build to last, from build to adapt. So that's the whole culture is changing. Today, failing fast is not a bad thing at all. In fact, you're complimented if you tried something and you failed.
But is that really true? Because I want Sanjay also to talk about this. Sanjay, this failing aspect, I don't think the government and the taxman supports failures. They always look at it with a sense of suspicion that, okay, these projects you invested money in, it didn't work out, what happened, explain. So there is still a fear factor in the industry about investing in projects which are not like, I mean, out of 10 projects, one will succeed. What about the other 9? Do you think that part about trust that you refer to can come and be enhanced to look at failure in a more positive way, as long as the intention is good?
I mean, as I previously mentioned, in fact, the trust deficit is a very, very important thing when the collaboration is happening at whether at the industry level or the academia level. So I think what I'll put it this way, that when it comes to conducting research, when the research is being done by an industry for its own self, that is speeded up, done quickly, and the outcomes are for the benefit of that industry. I mean, there is no issue about that. But when it comes to something which is much larger in size, where, because a lot of collaboration is required in the field of knowledge. When there is the knowledge does not stay in silos. So then that's why basic research world over happens in universities. With us, the problem primarily is, number one, of course, about the ecosystem of research is one thing, and secondly, the objective. In the universities, the research institution, what I have seen, that they are conducting research, spending their time on research, but what is going to be the outcome of that research? There needs to be clarity about it. Secondly, if a menu is provided, list is provided to a scientist to pick up the topics of research, invariably he would pick up those where the chances of failure are minimal, which gets done in a very short time period. So we have to move away from that. I mean, there is a lot of incentive system which needs to be integrated into the research system. So then it is going to provide the right kind of dividends.
Thank you. Piruz, 30-second thought from you before we close.
On what?
on failure and the culture for failure and the trust which is needed to respect failure in case things don't work out?
No, I think failures are now very clearly absorbed. That's why if you go to universities, you will have youngsters earlier, they were never getting into business or startups because they were afraid of failures. They are not. And that's why you do any survey. I think that problem is not too much there. People are ready to take risks. Even businessmen are ready to take risks. And I somehow believe, and I have proposed in some other forums, that we industrialists should come together. And the main risk youngsters have is of their finances. So we need to really ensure that we give them risk capital. So I did mention in some other forums that actually we should all come together and give risk capital. Venture funds is the route to ensure that these youngsters, because 10 of them will give, 9 will fail, but 1 will succeed. That 1, the valuation will cover the losses of all the 9.
And the other 9 have great experience.
And the other 9 will have great experience, and we will also make some money, probably better than the Indian Stock Exchange gives or the S&P gives. So I have definitely suggested that we need to work together, because that is the risk. What is the risk? I am saying that, of course, one person makes it risk, but 100 people come in, the risk is less. So I think we all need to work together with this. That's what I suggest, but that may be a separate session we have to keep on that how risk capital can be brought and how everybody can be it. It can't be done today in 30 seconds, I can't do it. But if we do it, what I just now said, it will really change, and I think some people in IMA should listen to what I'm saying also.
Thank you. I think we'll close on this very interesting takeaway that one, of course, that I think the responsibility of innovation is on everybody, both the government enterprises and the people who are involved. It's not about that somebody else is going to give you the incentives. You have to incentivize yourself. But I think the real issue is how do we start collaborating for a common goal and work towards it, both within the enterprise and between industry and government. Please join me in thanking the panelists for sharing their thoughts.
Thank you.